Best anime based on manhwa. There was a time when Korean manhwa was nothing more than an underappreciated form of entertainment. The sheer number of stories present in this medium is immense, and all of them were quite amazing and captivating in their own right. Unfortunately, a lot of these brilliant tales never really saw the light of day through the medium of animation, but this is a reality that is bound to change very soon. After all, initiatives by companies like Crunchyroll have finally allowed some excellent manhwa to get the anime adaptations they deserve. Aspiring fans who want to get into the brilliance of manhwa should check out their anime adaptations, which serve as great entry points into this wondrous world full of boundless imagination. While there's still a long way to go before the idea of webtoons being adapted into anime becomes the norm, the following examples are a great way to show that this movement is already on the rise. 10. The Girl Downstairs. Technically, The Girl Downstairs adaptation is not an anime since it was handled by a Chinese studio. However, it still deserves a mention since it is among the better animated adaptations of a manhwa. The story revolves around a romance between a college freshman, June, and an idol, Duna. The latter recently left the entertainment industry and is trying to start fresh, a process that is anything but simple. The 8-part ONA adaptation is a quick watch since the episodes are just a bit longer than 10 minutes each, so this series can easily be completed in a single sitting. The show does a great job of giving viewers an incentive to care about the main couple's blossoming relationship, all the while providing some insight into idol culture. 9. Noblesse. Crunchyroll has recently taken on the brilliant initiative of adapting popular manhwa into anime adaptations to help new fans get into this medium. One of their most popular adaptations is Noblesse, a show that has become ridiculously popular due to its interesting premise. The series follows a noble called Katazetramati Raizal, or Rai for short, who has been asleep for 820 years and is unaware of the technological advancements that mankind has gone through in recent times. After waking up in an abandoned building in Korea, he enrolls in high school and fights against a powerful corporation, which is as ludicrous and entertaining as it sounds. While the show is certainly entertaining in its own right, some issues hold it back somewhat. For starters, the characters in the anime differ quite a bit from the manhwa, leading to fan favorites from the webtoon becoming rather forgettable in the manhwa anime. In fact, some of these characters are pretty unlikable, and it's a shame that the adaptation wasn't a perfect success despite having its strengths. 8. Dr. Elise, the Royal Lady with the Lamp. While overshadowed by another winter 2024 anime adaptation of a manhwa, Dr. Elise is a decent manhwa anime adaptation in its own right, along with also being a passable entry in the isekai genre. In a cute twist, the protagonist was originally from a fantasy kingdom where she died in shame. She then reincarnated on Earth and decided to become a doctor to make amends for her past life. Unfortunately, tragedy strikes and Elise dies prematurely, leading her to reincarnate as her previous self. Although slightly convoluted, Dr. Elise is essentially a villainous story with a few extra steps. The manhwa and anime heavily focus on Elise's medical background, ensuring the referenced information is largely accurate while also emphasizing the protagonist's drive to prove herself in this field. While decent for the most part, Dr. Elise loses quite a lot of steam during its second half, and it is let down by a weak plot and underwhelming secondary characters. The show is watchable but nothing more than that. 7. A Returner's Magic Should Be Special. Debuting in a season packed with fantasy anime, A Returner's Magic Should Be Special slipped by the wayside as it struggled to stand out from the crowd. While nothing amazing, the series has a few positives in its favor, including a strong setup presented well by its first episode. Confronting an end-of-the-world threat, Dazir, a powerful mage, stands alongside a few chosen heroes as humanity's final hope. Unfortunately, they fail, but the protagonist gets a second chance when he reincarnates as his younger self while on the verge of entering Hebrian Academy. With time not on his side, Dazir must ensure that things play out differently to change humanity's future. As exciting as its opening episode is, a returner's magic should be special settles into a familiar routine once it switches to the academy. School settings in fantasy anime are so commonplace that they have become tiresome, and this show does not do enough to differentiate itself in this area. That said, Desir is pleasant and sympathetic, and he is supported by two likable characters in Romantika and Pram. This show has the potential to achieve greatness through a sequel, but the first season is simply decent. 6. The God of High School. MAPPA is one of the best animation studios around, with shows like Attack on Titan and Jujutsu Kaisen being some of the best names in their resume. So, the fact that they were adapting one of the most popular manhwa around was bound to excite fans to no end. Their work on The God of High School is another masterful combination of animation, music, and storytelling to make for a riveting viewing experience. Watching Mori Jin fight against the odds in this competition for the ages is a visual treat that doesn't get old anytime soon. MAPPA has truly been on top of its game, and the work they've put into animating The God of High School shows the mastery of its craft. That being said, fans have rightfully called out the show for skipping a ton of the world building, leading to a series full of pretty fights without a ton of backstory to give weight to these encounters. This results in the show just adapting the amazing battles without giving any thought to the emotions that fuel these encounters, making for a rather vapid spectacle in the eyes of many. 5. Viral Hit. Viral Hit has a rough opening episode, in more ways than one. While not bad, the animation takes some getting used to, particularly the frequently bizarre over-the-top facial expressions. The anime's aesthetic somewhat mimics the source material, but this style is more at home in the latter than the former. Just to be clear, Viral Hit's art is not show-ruining bad or consistently unpleasant, it just requires some adjustment. More importantly, the first two episodes primarily consist of the protagonist, Hobin Yu, getting beat up and bullied at school, and these scenes do not pull any punches. They are visceral and uncomfortable, to the point of coming across as gratuitous at times. Hobin eventually stops being a human punching bag, but Viral Hit never stops indulging in its violent showcases, even if the latter sequences are easier to digest since they are closer to traditional fights. Still, any viewer interested in trying this show needs to be aware that Viral Hit is quite grounded and realistic. Hobin is a strange protagonist. On the one hand, he is sympathetic due to his situation, which goes beyond his bullying at school. Conversely, he can come across as a bit of a creep around girls and is not particularly likable in isolation. Fortunately, Viral Hit pairs him up with Jihyuk and Gaeul, two characters who help bring out the best in Hobin. Jihyuk goes through a pretty substantial arc throughout the series, and his friendship with the protagonist is the highlight of the anime. Viral Hit's fights are intense and easy to follow since they typically revolve around Hobin trying to pull off one or two moves he has been practicing for the last month. The villains are mostly just archetypal bullies, but they are pretty detestable. 4. Why Raeliana Ended Up at the Duke's Mansion. A great manhwa anime adaptation that is worth a mention. Why Raeliana Ended Up at the Duke's Mansion had a few elements slightly altered in translation to be more relatable for Japanese audiences. The story is an isekai revolving around Park Yuna, Hanazaki Rinko in the anime, a person accepted into a university of her choice only to be pushed off a building to what she presumes to be her demise. However, instead of dying, Yuna actually wakes up in the body of Raeliana Macmillan, a baron who was part of a novel she was reading. However, Yuna soon realizes that Raeliana is a character who gets poisoned and dies, which kickstarts the very events of the novel in question. This prompts her to change her story, leading to her professing her supposed love for Duke Noah Wingnight, the protagonist of this novel. This leads to a hilarious series of events where Noah is blackmailed by Raeliana with all the knowledge she has gleaned from the novel, only for the Duke to actually fall in love with this character. Sweet and charming, the anime has adapted this story in a pretty nuanced manner that has led to many fans actively pining for a second season. Raeliana is the star of the show, especially during the anime's first half when she is presented as a refreshingly productive character. As the story progresses and she begins to fall for Noah, she loses some of her agency and confidence, although she remains likable. 3. Lookism. Lookism is quite a popular webtoon that has been ongoing for nearly a decade, producing 20 volumes in the process. It was only a matter of time before the concept received an anime adaptation, and Netflix swooped in to turn that possibility into a reality. Lookism follows Park Hyung-suk, a bullied teenager who is regularly attacked for the way he looks. One day, he randomly wakes up in basically a different body, a fact he uses to start a fresh life at school. Although its premise is not particularly original, Lookism does an admirable job of making it feel fresh and emotional, especially since Park is quite a complex character rather than a self-insert protagonist. Admittedly, the manhwa is by far the superior product, but Studio Mir's adaptation serves as a good entry point for newcomers. 2. Tower of God. Except for Solo Leveling, Tower of God is arguably the most popular manhwa to receive an anime adaptation, and it is also the most contentious. SIU's source material is genuinely fantastic, telling an ambitious tale that blends action, world building, character development, and humor extremely well. The story is captivating from the opening page and sustains its momentum fairly effortlessly, particularly once the real story begins following a well-executed twist. Telecom Animation Films anime was one of the first high-profile manhwa adaptations to hit the scene, garnering a somewhat positive response if fans of the source material are not taken into account. However, the latter group seems to regard the series as a disappointment, at least that is the general vibe of the online discourse surrounding it. And, even if someone is a complete newcomer, the anime still has issues. However, the anime has positives as well. While an acquired taste, the animation is decent and suitably epic at times. Agnes and Rak are both great secondary protagonists, with the former bringing emotional complexity and the latter providing consistently huge laughs. The final episode is also all around great, especially now that a Tower of God sequel exists. 1. Solo Leveling. The most hyped-up anime of winter 2024, Solo Leveling needed to be a triumph. Without question, Chugong's story is the most popular manhwa of all time, serving not only as a getaway into the medium but also influencing plenty of other webtoons. Quality aside, Solo Leveling is a massive name, and a lackluster adaptation could have negatively impacted the changes of other manhwa receiving the same treatment. Admittedly, that is too much pressure to put on a single property, but anime based on manhwa only make up a very small percentage of each season's lineup, and that will not change until there is a notable success story. Thankfully, Solo Leveling seems to be up to the task. Set in an alternate reality where portals to dungeons have opened around the world and some humans have awakened special powers, Sung Jin-woo represents the bottom of the barrel when it comes to hunters. On one ill-fated expedition, Sung finds himself at death's door, only to be saved by a strange message that offers him the role of a player. After accepting it, Sung picks up the ability to level up, setting him on a path to supremacy. Solo Leveling brings to life an interesting world that has just enough mysterious ingredients to keep the story moving forward. However, the manhwa and its adaptation are primarily driven by action, and most of these sequences are generally brilliant. While Sung has all the makings of an overpowered protagonist, he is still regularly tested by both monsters and other hunters, allowing for thrilling fights that are both satisfying and intense.
Hello. Thank you for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future content, comment and let me know. I know many are not comfortable with AI art, but I am saving to gather supplies to delve into other art styles. It will take time, but I am hoping to get into resin, woodworking, and metalworking. All I ask, please enjoy my videos.